Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. North coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. I'm sitting in for Dr. Phil Deagle today, and my assistant Ann Morrison is standing by as well. It is Friday afternoon, a weekend coming up. Got some updates for you. I was visiting some friends of mine who run a gun shop in Metro St. Louis a couple of hours ago. They report a 300% increase in gun sales since the unpleasantness began in Ferguson, Missouri 2 weeks ago tomorrow. They also report that Officer Wilson's home is very near this gun store, only 3 or 4 blocks away. Apparently, one of the St. Louis television stations, which is a network affiliate, broadcast an image of the home and the address. Shortly thereafter, the home of Officer Wilson was vandalized. All the windows broken out, is what I was told. In my opinion, this is completely irresponsible journalism on the part of a network TV station. The outcome of this is something that would be knowable and predictable in advance, given the heated controversy around what Officer Wilson did defending his life, and he was defending his life. Officer Wilson would have been beaten to death or he did sustain life-threatening injuries. And one injury we know about in particular was the orbital socket, the bones that surrounded one of his eyes, was broken. The bone surrounding one of his eyes was broken. It takes tremendous force to break that bone around your eye. I've investigated homicides where people were not injured that severely and they died. So, very irresponsible journalism on the part of network television, broadcasting the image of his home and the address of his home. We also had local media reporting the name of Officer Wilson's girlfriend and publishing her photograph, and we've had local media publishing details about other police officers involved in this. Completely irresponsible. We have news coming out of the Middle East, ISIS, which apparently there's some evidence, I haven't checked it out independently, some evidence that ISIS, the barbaric Middle Eastern group that is quite proud of being cannibals, they do eat the flesh of their victims and cut the heads off their victims, is a creation of our own Central Intelligence Agency. What a very unfortunate circumstance that is, but there is apparently some evidence to support that. I think the correct way to deal with ISIS would be with napalm. I think napalm would be a great way to eliminate that issue once and for all. That's what needs to happen. We do have with us Ann Morrison. Ann is a scientist and is an engineer also, and we'll be taking your questions and comments. Here's the call-in number, 800-259-5791. I say again, 800-259-5791, and I know my engineer is listening, and sir, you can post the first name and city of the caller on Skype here if you would like, so let us know we got a caller. And we've got lots of things going on in the world. We've got the Fukushima radiation event, the Ebola event in West Africa, the crisis of people coming across our southern border with various diseases. I know you pay attention to all of them. Which one is at the top of your list, if there is a top?
Well, I think it's Ebola. Ebola is spreading. It's a pandemic now. It's spread outside the borders of one country, and now is in 3 countries. Now they're adjacent countries, and it has also spread into Nigeria, and that was through an air flight. So we've got 3 adjacent countries, and one that is 1,000 miles away, maybe 500 miles away.
Right.
And we have reports of people being tested for Ebola. There was a lady in Sacramento, California, who was tested. Her test came out negative, and I'm sure they'll be looking to see if it's malaria or something else. She apparently had come out of West Africa on business or travel. We have a new report out of Ireland that a man died. He went home from Nigeria and to be with his extended family. He got sick while he was at home, and he subsequently died before the testing was complete. So that's still in the works to see if he really did die of Ebola, and if so, there might be members of his extended family who may have contracted it. There was a report of someone flying into, I think he was the one, and they have 600 people that they are watching. Now, usually what they do, or what they have been doing, is that they just tell the people who are sitting around the infected person that they may have been exposed to Ebola and to monitor their health. So they send them out into the public. Now, at what point do they become capable of exposing other people to Ebola? That has not been resolved yet. The incubation period is between 2 and 21 days, and people usually die 2 days after they spike their fever.
Right.
But there are people who are being treated for malaria and then subsequently discovered to have had Ebola. So it's not easy. If you have flu-like symptoms, that may be the time when you begin to be able to expose other people to Ebola.
Right.
So we may have many people. I'm glad that the person in Sacramento, California, didn't have it. However, again, they tell the men that they cure, and I put cure in quotes, in Guinea and Sierra Leone and Liberia. They say, well, wear condoms for at least 6 days because the Ebola virus will live in your sperm for that long, even though we don't catch it in the blood.
Right.
And so this is, I hope that they just released Kent Bradley, who was the missionary who came back and was given the ZMapp. And I hope they gave him the same counsel. It'd be a real tragedy if he transferred it to his wife. So things are bad. I mean, it's spreading around the world. They have people that they're looking at in the Philippines and in Burma, Myanmar, and in South Vietnam. Now, Burma is very populous. The population density there is very high. And I think it would be difficult to control it. And it is also it is considered an undeveloped country, even though they have television stations and we watch their elections. And, they seem to have some of the basic necessities for developing a nation, but they're still considered undeveloped. Right. So if it gets loose in these more populous areas, it could just explode out of control. The thing is that with a 21-day incubation period, the growth is not going to seem that fast, but it will explode. In other words, it's an exponential growth factor. I still counsel people that they need to be wearing a face shield. They need that's to keep the Ebola virus from getting on your skin. They're not really so worried that that you're going to breathe it in or swallow it, but because it's not like the flu. But it's possible that a little drop would get on your skin, your face, and your face has microcracks in it, and apparently that's how it enters the body. It goes directly into the blood. Right. Now, they are telling the people in West Africa that a very dilute solution of chlorine and water will kill it. And that's in the proportion of 1 to 100. In other words, a tablespoon of chlorine bleach to a gallon of water. And that's just regular chlorine bleach. It's not scented or treated in any way. It's not
or half a gallon to 50 gallons.
And but over here, the CDC guidance to people who are cleaning up the hospital rooms of suspected Ebola patients have been told that they are to clean them as though it was a very durable virus. And so they are being counseled to use sanitizers and disinfectants that are not available to the general public.
It would be helpful, I guess, to know, Ann, what those are. And you said earlier today on my show in the morning that it's difficult for normal people to get their hands on these chemicals.
Hold
that thought, Ann. We got a break. The call number, if you have a question or comment, 800-259-5791. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore and Ann Morrison, substituting for Dr. Bill Deagle here at Nutrimedical Report. And we were talking about Ebola before the break. Let's continue that discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, if you got a question or comment, here's the call-in number, 800-259-5791. Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, well, so what they're saying over here is that you have to have a disinfectant property that has a higher potency than what is normally required for the virus. And they have EPA-registered hospital disinfectants. And so what they're saying is that you have to treat this as though you were setting up a room. Now, for instance, if you were going to try to take care of somebody at home, you'd want to set up a room as though that person had asthma.
Right.
Nothing cloth.
Right.
No rugs on the floor, no curtains on the windows. You'd want no porous surfaces. That means no wood. You'd want tile on the floor. You'd want laminate on the walls, probably, and all the furniture in there should be what they call a hard surface, not a porous surface.
Right.
And what they do, if, for instance, if they're trying to clean a room that might have prions in it, but something that is really extraordinary, is they buy these big machines that make a foam out of hydrogen peroxide full strength. I think it's 78% or something like that. We can't get that in the public. And in fact, you can't even get 6% anymore. At least that's what I've been told, and I haven't seen it for a long time. And but
here's something that'll help, and I just found this. Clorox hydrogen peroxide formula kills norovirus in 3 minutes. That is one of the stipulations from the CDC. If it'll kill norovirus, it will kill Ebola virus.
Yes.
So this is something I think that shouldn't be too difficult to get your hands on. That would be the Clorox hydrogen peroxide disinfectant cleaner. So that's good to know.
Yeah, you might have to go to a medical supply house in order to get that. And but I'm sure somebody on eBay or Amazon would have that also.
I'll know here shortly because I'll be doing the research here. It's always good to know that something simple will help us achieve our goal, Ann.
Well, that's right, and we may have no choice. Now, you understand that over in Africa, the people that are getting sick are the medical personnel, the doctors and nurses.
Yes, absolutely. That's why they're quitting their professions and getting the hell out of Dodge.
Nigeria actually sacked 1,600 doctors because they were on strike. They were saying, well, this is too dangerous and we want hazard pay. And, if I had been in Nigeria, I would have said, by all means, you can have the hazard pay you want. Because they know that those people are likely to contract the Ebola virus. Now, over here, they are saying that if you think you have an Ebola patient, all you need to do, all the medical personnel have to do, is they should wear gloves, they should wear a mask and goggles and a gown. Here
we are. Clorox hydrogen peroxide disinfecting spray cleaner, $19 delivered to your door from Amazon.com. That's a 32-ounce bottle.
Is that, does it give the brand name, or can you look at it?
Clorox. It's Clorox brand. Clorox is a brand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Clorox hydrogen peroxide disinfecting cleaner spray. It kills norovirus, rotavirus, HIV, and more, which is just stipulated by the CDC as what you need to achieve your goal. So that's pretty good to know.
Yeah, that's very good to know. And you'd have to read the label to know the cautions. You may have to keep it out of reach of children, of course, as you do with all cleaners.
Obviously you would, yes.
But in any case, if you're going to take care of somebody that may have one of those, if they've gone on a trip and they may have come back with norovirus, And you have to understand that maybe the hospitals, your local hospitals, will have a small wing, maybe 6 to 10 rooms with 2 beds in them that could handle the isolation. Well, they're going to fill up. Right. And what they did recently over in Saudi Arabia with the MERS coronavirus was, in order to keep it from spreading, they just those personnel that worked in that wing, they weren't allowed out of that wing. Right. They spent their whole time in there, during when they were on duty.
Right. So, that makes sense, because suiting up and getting in and out of those suits is time-consuming and difficult and dangerous. So it would make perfect sense to spend a whole 8 hours there, yes.
Well, and the other thing was that any of the tools that they would use, maybe they have aspiration tools, or, who knows what they're doing. They have to stick needles into people to get the blood. They have to, inject them with saline, especially with Ebola, because it's so dehydrating. And all I can give is palliative care. They don't have a vaccine, and they don't have any medicine, although this ZMapp certainly looks promising.
The ZMapp does look promising, but we're grasping at straws here, aren't we?
We are grasping at straws, and they have no more, and they say it'll be 6 months before they can make some more. Now, there are other companies that are building vaccines, but again, they don't have them now, and it's going to take them time in order to get up to speed. Now, we were fortunate because our Army AMRID was over there in 2005. Right. And they were looking at they were looking at malaria or something, because when we send, that's part of the Army, and when we send our troops into a region, we need to know how to protect them. I mean, it doesn't do us any good to send troops into a region and have them die of some tropical disease that we never heard of over here. So they always try to be ahead of the curve. And I'm sure we have fine epidemiologists in the Army that are working that.
Oh, yes. They got some excellent scientists, no doubt about that.
But while they were there, so they were collecting blood samples from a lot of different people. Well, they did their particular task. Their mission was accomplished, and so they went back and they looked at the blood samples to see what else was in the blood, and they discovered Ebola. Now, they discovered a new strain of Ebola, which they called Ivory Coast Ebola, but nobody was reported to have died from it. So they had this new strain of Ebola, and nobody was reported to have died from it in Ivory Coast or anyplace else, but they knew it was different than the Zaire strain, which was over by the Congo. So they... And then they left there, but at least they had a chance to look at the virus, and they put out grants for people to look at how they could build a vaccine or build a treatment for it.
Right. Hold that thought, Ann. We got a break. The call-in number is 800-259-5791. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Morris, substituting for Dr. Bill Deagle, with Ann Morrison this afternoon on Friday, the 22nd day of August. And we've got a caller here in hold. We've got Glenn in Philadelphia. Good afternoon, Glenn.
Hi, Glenn.
Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, Ann. Nice to see you over in this neck of the woods. You sound almost the same on this phone number. Wanted to talk about the Ebola precautions. You were talking about, Ann, with the hard surfaces and being careful with sheets and stuff like that, too. People are getting used to the word vector, which refers to a living organism that spreads a disease, whether it's a pig, bird, human, whatever. That's a living transmitter of disease is a vector. And inanimate objects that on which bugs sit and get transferred are called fomites. So you have fomites for inanimate objects and vectors for living things. People have to. It's kind of tough in the home because their homes are made out of whatever their homes are made of. So they can do things like, get rid of unnecessary, softer, items of cloth and that sort of thing. But the floors, they're sort of stuck with. They could try temporarily putting down linoleum over carpet or something like that if they needed to. Would provide a more surface. But the other thing I wanted to mention was about the hand cleaning. This is just, I always think about this. People want to keep themselves clean, wash their hands, but always watching out for not drying out the skin. Don't let your skin get dry and cracked. The minute your skin cracks, you've created a portal of infection. So don't overdo the antibacterial soaps, or make sure you use hand moisturizer and that sort of thing to keep those dry cracks from forming on the skin. That's very important. And to make sure rubber gloves get changed frequently with each treatment of the patient. I used to watch Turnpike toll collectors here in Pennsylvania keep rubber gloves on for a whole shift, and I'd forewarn them that's a great way to get a yeast or fungus infection. Keeping rubber gloves on, you want to put them on for the time period that you need them. Never go from patient to patient, with the gloves. Get them off when you can. Wash your hands. Keep your hands moist.
You may not know the answer to this question, sir. Is there a difference in the protective factor between latex gloves and nitrile gloves for the person wearing them?
I wouldn't think so from the standpoint that they're very short. They're short use. I would suspect that, if for a longer period of time, it seems like the nitrile seems like a little bit tougher stuff, but I really can't speak to the strength or permeability of them.
Okay.
I'm okay with either one. With latex, everybody's worried about allergies these days. Right now, rubber glove availability is pretty good. I'm getting ready actually to go to a Sam's Club store there, and they've been on the shelf for a long time. Talk about your prepping supplies. Pick up a box. Don't become a hoarder, but it doesn't hurt to pick up a box or two of gloves. Mediums, larges, or extra larges are good. Larges are a good compromise. They're for some reason there's always a bunch of the ones that are really too small and really hard to put on. So,
I just picked up today. I picked up 100 medium and 100 large nitrile gloves at Harbor Freight of all places. Less than $8 per 100.
If you're going to be working with, if you're going to have working class guys in the equation, get those XLs while you can, because I can tell you from personal experience, the XLs are, when you've got some guys with big, strong.
There's some guys with some really big hands out there, aren't there, Glenn?
Yeah, XLs are a good place to be if you can find them.
Okay.
Okay, take care.
Okay, Glenn. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for the call. And I want to mention a couple more things because we're quickly using up this hour here about the situation in my hometown, your hometown, Ferguson, Missouri.
Yes.
Night before last, 2 automatic weapons, what most people would call machine guns, were taken from protesters. We now have protesters wearing body armor. A sizable percentage of protesters that are being arrested are not from St. Louis, anywhere near St. Louis. They're from Chicago, Detroit, New York, California. Police, my sources inside the police department are very concerned that this coming week, following the funeral for the young man, which is Sunday, that things are going to get far more violent and far more bloody. We now have Missouri National Guard is being sent home, and they're bringing in police officers from the state of Illinois. Apparently, an agreement, reciprocity, jurisdictional agreement between the governors of Missouri and Illinois to allow that to happen, because otherwise it couldn't. This thing is far from...
That's very unusual. I've never heard of such a thing.
It's highly unusual to have police officers crossing state lines and still be police officers. Except in hot pursuit, it's a very rare occasion, but that's in fact what's happening. These men, and my friend has been on the ground there. Today is day 13. Tomorrow will be day 14. Actually, today is day 14. Tomorrow will be day 15. Excuse me. Has not been home for 14 days. I kind of kidded him the other day about whether he's going to submit a change of address card with the Postal Service so he can get his mail. But the police department, and there's some defects in the St. Louis County Police Department. They have not been providing meals for these men. The local businessmen up there in Ferguson are stepped up to the plate. They're providing all the sandwiches and pizza these guys can eat. They're working 12-hour shifts under harsh conditions, get to take a shower, every 3 to 4 days, getting sleep whenever they can, 2 or 3 hour segments of sleep. It's a difficult situation, and they've really, I'm very proud of them, the restraint that they've exercised. People are all upset about weapons being pointed at people with laser sights on them. To me, that's a big so what. These men are being shot at with real lead, and they've exercised great restraint in not shooting back and causing a untoward loss of life. There's been some people in the media who think they're above the law when you're in a riot situation and a police officer orders you to move on down the street and you don't, well, you're going to get arrested because you're in the middle of a riot. Guess what? I'm sorry,
Well, exactly. I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, well, they think they're above the law. They think because they have press credentials hanging around their neck that they don't have to do what Officer Friendly wants them to do. Well, that's not the way it works. If you're in a riot, you better do what Officer Friendly tells you to do, or you're going to get yourself arrested. There was 2 officers, and this is a week ago now, that were in a McDonald's restaurant there in Ferguson. The day or 2 later was broken into and looted, by the way. The 2 press people were roughed up a little bit. These are healthy adult males interacting with other healthy adult males. I saw a transcript of what happened. A high school football player gets roughed up far worse than that 20 times in one football practice. That was no big deal. I mean, these aren't kids. These are healthy adult males that didn't respond in the way the police want them to respond. And yeah, they got roughed up a little bit. And of course, the police officers, and I don't know if you've ever gone for a day and a half or 2 days without sleep. I have. Sleep deprivation makes you a different person. You become, you get a real sharp fuse. And you don't behave or act like you normally would when you have a belly full of good food and a good 8 hours rest in a comfortable bed, followed by a shower and a shave. You've been up for a day and a half, 2 days straight or longer. You're not gonna be the most pleasant, agreeable person. You're not. I guarantee it. So these men, and I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, as I say. These men are working under horrendous conditions, being shot at with firearms, having rocks thrown at them, having bottles full of gasoline called Molotov cocktails thrown at them. If somebody's throwing a bottle full of flaming gasoline at you, man, they're trying to kill you. No 2 ways about it. We have a break coming up. We have a question or comment, 800-259-5791. We'll be right there. We're back with you here on Nutrimedical Report on Friday, the 22nd day of August. We're visiting with Ms. Ann Morrison. My website is thelibertyman.com, thelibertyman.com. I have 2 shows Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 a.m. Central Time on Republic Broadcasting, 8 to 9 a.m. on Blog Talk Radio. All the details of how to listen are at my website, thelibertyman.com, thelibertyman.com. In addition, Monday afternoons from 4 to 5 p.m., I'm with Dr. Deagle also. And we have Ann Morrison with us. And the call number, if you got a question or comment, is 800-259-5791. And we've covered the Ebola pretty thoroughly here, and some ways to mitigate and clean up to make sure that the virus does get killed. And a little bit about the flu virus. This situation with the southern border continues to be just as bad as ever, doesn't it?
Well, when they're bringing in the MDR TB, that is multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, that's always serious, and because it can't be treated. That's what it means, multi-drug resistance. In other words, the drugs that they would normally use to treat the tuberculosis they can't use, and they have to go back and fall back and use either ultraviolet light or put them into some kind of sanitarium. and treat them with palliative treatment. So we used to have TB hospitals in the Southwest, in Arizona and New Mexico.
Right.
And that's where the TB patients went. And apparently, because they wanted to get away from moist climates, they wanted them in a dry climate.
Right. And
then they discovered that some of them were getting better, and somehow they tied that back into ultraviolet light. And then they did use ultraviolet light to cure some of those people. Sanatoriums are what they were called. So it is a very serious problem, and it's not easily fixed. And, of course, if you've got a child that goes to school and catches it, then brings it home, you've got to take certain precautions so that the rest of the family doesn't catch it. And moving may be the only way to do that. You may have to move out of the district and into a drier climate and see some specialists.
Well, you do what you got to do, don't you, Ann?
You do what you got to do. It's terrible that MDR-TB has become what they call it's a community-acquired disease. That means that you don't acquire it in the hospital anymore. It used to be that the only way you got that was if you were in the hospital and somebody was being treated with antibiotics and the TB evolved so that it was resistant, and then you would catch it from the hospital. Or if their room weren't properly disinfected, then and they put you in that room, then you might catch it. But now it's what they call a community-acquired disease. And, we'd like to think that medicine has evolved. Well, they're talking about a post-antibiotic era. That is, the germs are so strong now, they don't react to antibiotics, that we may see more people who have to have limbs removed, or, we just...
We did it to ourselves. This is a consequence, Ann, of people improperly taking antibiotics, which didn't kill off all the bacteria and allowed some of them to develop a resistance, and that's what we're dealing with is drug-resistant bacteria, aren't we?
Well, some of it's that, and some of it is that the food producers, the feedlots, were using antibiotics to...
Same thing. When there was the animals, the chickens and the beef, injected with antibiotics, which allowed the drug-resistant bacteria to grow.
Right, exactly. And so, they're starting to cut down on that. What they do is they withdraw antibiotic use 6 weeks before they sell the meat to the market. Well, I don't know if that's sufficient or not. There's still a lot of greed. People want to make money, and there are people who take shortcuts. Of course, they have prosecuted some farmers now that have not followed the guidelines and have sent tainted beef, especially, and chicken to the market. And they fined them substantially, and I think in some cases there were some jail sentences of some kind.
We got a caller on hold here, and James in Oklahoma is asking about if we know where Planet X is. Well, is James there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, James.
Yes, I was wondering, about Planet X, if you knew anything or something new or what.
Well, it's a topic that periodically comes up, and I've addressed it publicly dozens and dozens of times the past 10 years. It's visible in the you can see it in the visible light spectrum, I should say, only about 1 month a year. I think that month is late spring, around April or May or June. And even then, you only can see it from the southern hemisphere if you know where to look. Otherwise, it's only visible in the infrared light spectrum with specialized equipment. NASA knows where it is. They've been tracking it since 1979, and they're not sharing, James. So I can't answer your question specifically.
Okay.
My personal belief, however, is that we're already feeling the effects. The planet is heating up from the inside. It's got nothing to do with your pickup truck emissions, James, or cow flatulence, like they would like us to believe, or using the wrong light bulbs. But the planet is heating up. That's evidenced by the melting ice in Greenland, which is melting from the bottom, melting ice in the Antarctic, which is melting from the bottom, and of course the dilution of the oceans with fresh water, which has caused the Gulf Stream to stop. Dr. Deagle, myself, and Ann, we interviewed Dr. Zangari right here on this show on a Friday afternoon, 2 Fridays, and these are archived in Genesis, so you can listen, James, and everybody else. The last 2 Fridays of July 2010, the third hour. You can listen to Dr. Deagle, myself, and Ann with Dr. Zangari. Dr. Zangari describing the Gulf Stream having stopped. So here's my advice, James. Don't get caught up in searching for Planet X. I did that 10 years ago. It didn't go anywhere. Yeah. You need to understand 2 things. First of all, we're already feeling the effects with the Gulf Stream having stopped and no longer regulating the jet stream. Ann talks frequently about how the jet stream is doing bizarre, crazy stuff. We're already living the effects of the 10th planet right now on August 22nd, 2014. So just be aware that it's out there, that it's affecting us right now, and make your preparations accordingly. That's my advice.
Okay, another one, I heard Tim Spencer, I think of that guy, he said he lived in Oklahoma for 27 years, never felt an earthquake.
Right, well, Oklahoma was always seismically neutral up until, 8 or 10 years ago?
Nope. Well, we'd had earthquakes. We're in the earthquake capital of earthquakes, and it happens. They're only like a 1 or 2 or something like that. You really don't feel.
Right.
I've been in an earthquake in Oklahoma. It sounded like he was in a windstorm.
James, tell me, is it fairly recently that earthquakes in Oklahoma only got strong enough that you could actually feel them?
Yep. Some of them now. We're a little bit far away from them.
Okay.
They've been up by Stillwater and up by Guthrie, Oklahoma.
Gotcha. Okay.
We've been feeling them.
Well, that's the difference there, James. James, thank you for your call, sir. We're pretty much out of time here. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And we're down to the last minute or so. Any final comments you want to get out to all these folks on Genesis Communications?
Yeah, you're going to have to keep your social distance. That is, when you're talking to somebody, stand at least 6 feet away from them. Be prepared with a face shield. And if you have a face shield, even if you're standing closer, you shouldn't have any problems with germs. You may want to invest in some of this hospital-grade disinfectant that John found.
Outstanding. Thank you, Ann. Talk to you soon. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too, John.
Appreciate it. That's it for today. You all be safe out there. Get medical supplies, your energy cleaner now while you can, your firearms and ammunition. Have a fun, safe, productive weekend, and God bless America.